All right. Now here's a big one. Money. Money, 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 money. A lot of people say money is the root of all evil. Well, it's not. Because money is an idea. It's not even a thing. And it certainly isn't a person or anything that could be good or anything that could be evil. Money only represents the will of the person who holds it or yields it. And that person can will it for good, or that person can will it for bad. You can use your money for good things, just like you can use your money for bad things. But it's an idea. Nevertheless, essentially, just an entry in a ledger, and the physical manifestation of it, the dollar bills in your pocket, have no real value outside of their value in trade in the barter system, or type of barter system that we live under. I'll explain what that is, but that's what it is. In and of itself, it means nothing. It does nothing. You can't eat money. You can eat things that money can buy. You can't wear money. You can wear things that money can buy. You can't live in a house of money. You can live in a house that money buys. So, and I'm going to get into money right after I talk about what a barter system is. So let's back up for a second. Most people are under the misconception or untruth, if you will, that we live in a monetary system, or because we use money. But that's not the type of system that we live in, because that's just money. We live in a system, a barter system. We still live in a barter system, whether we got carts and buggies or Maseratis and Rolls Royces. We live in a barter system. And what is a barter system? Well, a barter system is the compulsory exchange of goods, whereby at one's discretion or choice, one may trade goods with another, wherein he will receive goods from another when he gives a good. So to barter isn't just to exchange. It isn't just, look, I'm going to give you something and you're going to give me something. No, that's not to barter. That would be to love. When you fill the needs of your fellow man because he has needs and you can fill them, that's love, to give. To barter is not to love. To barter is you only give if you receive, which also means you only receive if you give. And there's no love there. Think about that. Where an exchange means, one could define an exchange where you walk into a situation with a good and you walk out of it with a different good because you trade it with somebody. That's an exchange. That could be a trade. But bartering is a compulsory exchange, which means you are only going to receive something if you give something. You're only going to get your need filled if you give something up. And that's a straight, simple barter system. Now, are we on a simple barter system? No, we're not. Because in a simple barter system, the participants have the choice to barter or not to barter. It's not, although the exchange itself is compulsory, the engagement in bartering is not compulsory. Because you can fill your own needs. You got your own farm, you can milk your own cows, you built your own house, you show your kids how to, you raise your kids on how to milk the cow, farm the land, build a house so that they know how to fill their needs. You don't have to barter. But the simple barter system, in a simple barter system, you don't have to barter to fill your needs. It's just about trading goods, compulsory trading goods, a compulsory exchange. But that's not how we live. We live in a system of barter where people have no choice but to barter in order to fill their needs. We live in a system where you can't, you're born, all of a sudden you grow up, you raise, and oh, I don't want to barter no more. Well, you have to. You aren't, and we'll talk about that, but this, you aren't raised nowadays with the skill set that you would need in order to fulfill all your needs. And we're going to talk about what your needs are in a second. We're going to break those down too. But, this forced barter system occurs when the community of people move away from relying on themselves to meet their own needs, which are obligations unto themselves, and they move towards relying on the barter system, the system itself, to meet their needs. And that's a forced barter system. And we're going to come back to that. I wouldn't expect that you're going to wrap this around your brain that quickly, nor should you, because you should take your time to journey through the truth of these ideas that I'm presenting, because what is life in a sense other than the journey to discover truth? And the journey itself is how you learn, is how you obtain the knowledge and the wisdom. So, money. Let me give a few ideas on money, and we'll get back to this barter system that we live in. And that is, let's go on to say that money, it is a common untruth that men tell themselves when they believe and operate as if we are in a monetary system. We are not in a monetary system. We are on a type of barter system, a forced barter system, that uses money as a way to accumulate power in trade without having to accumulate goods for trade. In this way, money, as an idea, makes the barter system in which we live efficient. And again, it doesn't become efficient as a system until you have a forced barter system. Think about that. Play it out in your mind. But the efficiency that is created in a barter system is owned by money, by the idea of money, is only becomes practically efficient when there is enough trade happening. And that only becomes practically efficient when there is enough ability to accumulate goods and advance goods. And as a practical matter, that only comes to happen when you have more and more, or as you have more and more people engaging in the forced barter system. Otherwise, you don't have enough goods being exchanged and produced, and enough R&D and people focusing on that in order to have it to reach an attrition level, if you will, where the idea of money acts as a way to make that system efficient and practical. So, in this way, money as an idea makes the barter system in which we live efficient. Now, greedy lies will try to cloud the truth of money, but money is now as it was when the idea of money came to be, and that is the opportunity of all man, not just its holder, but any holder, and all those who hoard the opportunity of man are no less guilty because they stockpile their bank accounts with credits than they would be if they stockpiled it with grain in their barn while they watched their neighbors starve from hunger. So it doesn't make any difference whether or not the idea of money means that as you could trade it for food, or if you're sitting on a stockpile of money, just like sitting on a stockpile of food as you are walking past the homeless and the starving every day. And I'm not talking to your have-nots. Most of us walking around here are the have-nots. I'm talking to your haves. Your haves, your have a little mores, you have a lot mores, you gotta have more than them, and especially the ones at the top that gotta have more than everybody else. Those are the people who are stockpiling their money, not the have-nots, as you're barely getting by day to day or week to week or paycheck to paycheck, as it's put, because it's kept that way. Once you take the lies from your eyes, you see that it is kept that way. That you are kept from your opportunities just like the starving in the streets are kept from their opportunities, and it's all from the greed, selfishness, and lies and sins of those who have those stockpiles. But so let's go back and now consider this: before there were laws of men, before man's law, and before there were kings or rulers or leaders or followers, before there were governments or banks or churches, there were men, just men. Men who had needs and men who could meet needs. And you must understand that man is a being of love. He is a child of God who acts from the love in his heart to give, to fill the needs of others. This is man's primal nature. That's your primal nature, is to give, to love. When you have it, everything seems fine. And when you see suffering and you know you should give and you should love, that's when things don't turn fun, right? Who among you could call yourself a man if he would watch his brother die from starvation because his brother had nothing to trade with him? Does not a man give his brother food from the love in his heart, even if he has less now, so that they both may live? Isn't that love? So that they both may live? You're more primary than and before man commenced trading with each other, men gave to each other from the love in their hearts for the betterment of both men. Both men. Although man can fill each other's needs for each other's betterment, somewhere along the way, the barter system crept its way into humanity. And the barter system does not fill needs. It's a system of exchange wherein the goods that fill the needs are exchanged. Men make the goods. Men still fill the needs. And in this barter system that we have, when you step back and can see the forest through the trees, what you see is that all the needs of the have-nots are getting filled by the have-nots, and in the filling, the haves and the have a little mores, and they gotta have more than them, and they gotta have more than everybody else, They're profiting off of it. They're making the money off of you filling each other's needs so that they can keep that money and that opportunity that it represents from you. And you can just have enough, just enough to live your life paycheck to paycheck exactly how you're told to live. And you won't have the time or the opportunity to question why things are the way they are, why things have to be the way they are, how things should be, how we can get them to how they should be. And all that takes time and effort and opportunity. And you're not going to have that time and effort and opportunity when you have to spend your entire day filling your needs for how much they give you to trade with each other and give back to them. Because you're filling each other's needs, and you filling that big stockpile that they just keep holding that. We're going to talk about, who produces and who controls, and so that you can understand that and you'll see, the producers are the have-nots. The have-nots, the ain't-gots, right? And those who control, well, the more they control, the bigger up the line they go. There's the haves. Again, to have a little mores, have a lot mores, gotta have more than them, and gotta have more than everybody else. They have the controls at your levels of control. In the barter system, there is no place for a man to love and to help his fellow man. There is only a place for exchange. Well, pound that idea into your head, because there ain't nothing about love in the barter system. You only get if you give. And if you're hungry and you don't have anything to give that those who can give you will accept, at least, or that you want to give up, right? Because there's a lot they'll take from you if you let them. Especially those things that you shouldn't give up, and that they know you shouldn't give up. But if you don't have anything to give up, or you don't give it up, then you go hungry. Again, barter system, if your neighbor is hungry and you have food but he has nothing to exchange, he don't eat. No place for love. There's no compassion. There's no mercy. There's no forgiveness in a barter system. Like there is mercy and love between men. But there's men in this barter system, right? So why is it that you can have man and man engage in a barter system and not have love? Because they're not showing each other love, are they? They're not giving each other shit. You only get if you give. And where's the love in that? Well, let me ask you this. People like, what came first, the chicken or the egg questions. Didn't you receive the gift of life and love from God as you were born? The gift of life, you got that first. He didn't ask you for nothing in order to give that to you. And now you got love inside you, and you feel that love inside you that calls you to give. Not when people ask or not ask, but when people need. and then some. In one of these segments, I talked about the Christmas lie and how perhaps the biggest part of, or one of the largest parts of the Christmas lie is the lie that it is okay to pass this lie on. All right? Well, in analogy, the first lie of the barter system is that business versus personal lie. That well, it's bartering, so that's business. It's not personal. So this is the first lie of the barter system, that business is business, that there is a difference between business decisions, which are supposed to have nothing to do with love, and personal decisions, which can have everything to do with love, just so long as they don't hurt your business. So the lie of separating business from personal creates confusion and prevents man from loving, and allows for other lies to creep in, enabling and allowing for the bad guys, if you will, to take advantage of the good guys, enabling the haves and above them to take advantage of the have-nots, enabling the controllers to take advantage of the producers. And you buy into that lie that there's a difference between business and personal, and you let other people hurt you, lie to you, steal from you, all in the name of that lie. And while you're busy chewing on it and listening all the other lies that you tolerate, that stockpile keeps getting bigger and bigger. And that stockpile is your opportunity, not just to meet your needs, but to advance, to better meet your needs, to take you in the direction of good and right, because that is what is implicit in a forced barter system, unless it's really not a forced barter system and it's just straight slavery. And there is no in-between on this when you see the forest through the trees. In one of my segments, I talked about the Godfather movies, Michael Corleone, and his, the difference, or the fact that there is no difference between business and personal. And I'm going to let that speak for itself. The barter system is one in that for you to receive something, you must compulsively give something. This is the business principle of bartering. Without this one principle, it would not be barter. It would be theft, if there is such a distinction. Right? Now, what I'm saying is the principle, the business principle of bartering is, well, you give to receive. You only receive if you give. So if you receive without giving, or if you give without receiving, that means either you stole something from somebody or you got something stole from you. If there is such a distinction in the barter system. But this idea of money is only that of an entry in a book in which some man controls what portion of the opportunity all men get to receive. Separate from this idea, the dollar bills in your pockets aren't worth the paper on which they are printed. Money is but a tool of the barter system. In and of itself, it is only opportunity, but opportunity that is realized by the one who spends it. And you can only spend it in that barter system of exchange. As only a man spends money, whether or not money is good or bad is determined by its use, and therefore the use of the one who spends it. Most men do not understand Most men do not understand the love inside them and don't think to operate from it, as opposed to operating from bullshit and the lies that they have within them. Lies that other people tell them, lies that they tell themselves. But most men do not understand the love inside them and therefore cannot envision a world without bartering. But I'm going to tell you this. Before there was bartering, there was love. Before there was someone refusing to fill the need of one who had nothing to trade, there was one who asked for nothing but gave you life. Wrap that around your heads. You know now that it is right to fill the needs of others, whether they have something to barter and trade for or not. You know now that as men long ago knew, before money, as men have always known, you know this by the voice of love within you. You know that it is right to fill the needs of others, whether or not they have anything to give you in return, particularly, most particularly, when they don't have anything to give you in return. That is, or those people who don't have anything to give in return, that is all the producers. Those are all the producers, because they don't have anything to give in return, because they don't have the ability, the skills, or the opportunity to fill their own needs. And in that, they don't have anything to give in return for that, except to further their position of mercy to those who control the production, which is to control the opportunity produced. So you see that bartering is not just the exchange of goods, it is the compelled exchange of goods. Bartering is refusing to fill the needs of your brother unless he has something to give you that you want in return. Now tell me, which does your heart and your soul tell you came first? Bartering or love? Now take some inventory and ask yourself, what comes first in your heart now? Bartering or love? Business or personal? But I thought he said there wasn't a difference between business and personal. That's what that rewind button is for. See, you need to rewind and keep listening until that understanding hits you. Because you get a little bit in there. No, there is not a difference between business and personal. It's all personal. So what's coming out of your heart? Is it love? Because bartering can't come out of your heart. Only love and that which is not love can come out of your heart. Not bartering. So money is an idea. It is only an idea. Even the scraps of paper in your pockets are worthless and in and of themselves have no value but in trade in the system in which you are enslaved. Whereas hunger is not an idea, but it's in the hearts and the stomachs of the hungry. Food is not an idea, but it is stored right next to the hungry. And both the hungry and the food that can satisfy that hunger and sustain their lives rot away because of an idea and no actual barrier. They rot away because of the idea of money. They rot away because of the idea of bartering. But there is no actual barrier there, as both the hungry and the food that can satisfy them deteriorate and rot away right next to one another. Why? Again, don't let this message get the have-nots too down. Because yes, you see the people on the streets and you wonder why you don't have the opportunity to do anything about it. You don't. What little means you have in your bank accounts is just the illusion that you have a couple of months security when you are ever at the mercy of those who control the production of the goods and services produced by you. They're the ones who have the control. They're the ones who let the food rot next to the hungry people. They're the ones with no love in their hearts. But you all need to understand love. And you need to understand God to understand love. Because God is love. And we all need to repent and atone to his one and only Son, Jesus. Because we are all children of God. God dwells within each and every one of us as God loves each and every one of us. Who told you you weren't special? And why did you believe them? Don't listen to them. Don't believe them. Look in your own hearts. Find your own answers. Find the love that's inside you. Now try to find it in something else. Try to find it in that car. Car can't love. Try to find it in that house. House can't love. Your pet can't really love you. That tree can't love you. Some of you people like to hug them trees. That tree don't love you back. Because the tree can't love. But a man can. And a man needs love. And a man needs to give love. So you can have all the food in the world. And you can have all the cars and all the money and all the things and all the control. But you are never complete, and you know this as a man, unless you give and receive love. And you're not going to give and receive love except through God. And look at his commandments. That's your instructions on how to love each other. And look at the life of Jesus. He is your instructions on how to complete the instructions on how to love one another. Our technology can remove barriers such as distance, and rivers and oceans and even space, but our technology cannot remove the barrier money puts around our hearts, or the noose with which the barter system strangulates the love in man. Your true opportunity and your only opportunity does not rest in a bank account or a ledger. It rests in your own hearts. It rests in love, which means it rests in God. That's your opportunity. That's your true opportunity. And they can't really take that from you. They can only give you the illusion that you can't and don't have it. But they can't take it from you. And what can money do? Nothing. It's only an idea. Only people can bring food to the hungry. Only food can satisfy their stomachs, and only God can satisfy their souls. All the money in the world cannot stop you from taking some of the food that you have and feeding the hungry. No government, no system, no organizations, no rules can stop you from feeding the hungry. Only another man can stop you from feeding the hungry. That's a little bit about money. I'm sure we'll talk some more about it, but that's what that is for right now. We're going to go back to that money barter and forced barter. Right? Because again, you're not just on a simple barter system. You're on a forced barter system. You are born into this. You are born into this not knowing and not having the skill set to provide your own needs. So let's go back, like we did. We talked about CERN with the particle, rip and hole in the universe and all of that stuff with creating elements, and how that shows or gives us some insight into how elements were formed, which gives us some insight to the truth of them, how they present themselves to us now and today in their created form, and how we do the same thing with, we took an exercise in looking back on truth and how we started separating some words out of truth, like the news, and how we went back and took a look at the news. Well, let's do that with this money and barter and forced barter system. Take into account everything else I said, of course, and I'm just going to read a few more things that I have here, and we'll wrap this up so you can wrap your brain around it, because it affects you, and it affected your daddy, and it affected your daddy's daddy and his daddy, and so on and so forth, and it's affecting your children. It's going to affect your children's children if they're here, if they, and their children's children, however far in the future we go. But it affects you now, then, and later. You need to pay attention to it. Did you rely on the barter system because you were convinced that it was better? Taking yourself back to a simpler time when you had the ability to take care of your own needs, to fill your own needs. It's not too appetizing of an idea, or too enticing of an idea, if you will, to engage in a system where you no longer can fill your own needs, because then you're putting yourself in a spot to rely on the will of others who are unregulated individuals, so that you can meet your needs that you can meet yourself if you don't engage in this system, and that system being the forced barter system. Of course, the simple barter system is, well, it's not practical for advancement. Again, like I said before, that speaks for itself. So, sounds like you were either forced in to this forced barter system, which that kind of sounds like slavery, or if you're not forced into this forced barter system, then there is some agreement that is implicit in this forced barter system. And this agreement would be between its two general participants, those who produce and those who control the ends of production or control the production. Because if there's not an agreement, then it's by force. And if it's force, well, then that's slavery. And we've got a whole different conversation if we're dealing with slavery. But we're going to give the controllers the benefit of the doubt and say that it's not slavery. At least not, we're not going to say that yet. But if it's not slavery, then it's got to be by agreement. Certainly we can all agree on that. So, who are those who control the exchange? And these are those, like I said, you have two participants. You have the producers and the controllers. And the controllers are the ones who control the exchange rate of goods and services, what to do with the excess goods, the surplus goods. They control the direction of production, the research and development, etc., etc., etc. That's the advancement and everything, right? Everything. Producers, just put your head down. You work, do what we tell you to do, and we're going to take care of everything else. We're going to lead you in the right direction. Because that would be what the agreement would have to entail in order for there to be an agreement. Let's look at that for a second. And as implicit in all agreements, there is a benefit to each party. The few who control the ends of that production and the many who produce. We can see easily that the benefits to the few who control the ends of the production, recognizing that benefits, well, that's pretty easy. They got all the damn money, which means they got all the damn opportunity. It's implicit. It's easy. Okay. But let me ask you this. What are the benefits implicit in this agreement to those many men who produce? Who now, these men, have agreed to rely on the discretion of those who control the ends of the production for the meeting of their needs. Let's talk about what their needs are a little bit better. What are these needs? Well, these are every physical need a man needs, because he is solely responsible for his own physical needs as well as those needs of his family and those who he loves. That means all of the food you eat, the water you drink, your shelter, your need for the truth, your need for truth in the form of education, your need for truth in the form of news. Nobody needs lies. We get a lot of them, but nobody really needs them. What you need is truth. And what keeps you from getting truth are lies. What you have the need for protection. You have the need for medicine. These are just a couple of some of your more basic needs. And you also have the need for advancement, progress in truth, progress in meeting all of man's needs, getting better food, better medicine, better shelter, better transportation, better education. What is better education? It means more truth, better news, which means more truth. And whenever you're talking about having more truth, what you're talking about, in addition to having more quantitative truth, is having more qualitative truth, which means having less lies, less confusion. So that's some of the things that I mean by needs. Now, going back to this agreement, in such an arrangement, there is only one exchange of obligations between these two parties, between the have-nots who produce and the haves and above who control, there is only one sensible exchange of obligations, and that is that the many who produce place themselves at the mercy of those who control the end of the production and participate in the forced barter system as a producer. That's what they give. Now, what do those who control, what do they give? Well, what they give up is they agree to participate as a controller in this forced barter exchange, and they also agree implicitly to manage the production of goods for the good of all the men involved, for the good of the producers and the controllers, for the good of all. That's what they agree. So the producers agree. They say, first is, we agree to act in furtherance of this agreement as a producer. We also put ourselves at your mercy so that you can control. The controllers say, okay, we agree to act as your controllers. And for you putting yourself at our mercy, we agree that we're going to act in your best interest. We're going to lead you towards all that is good. We are going to lead all of us towards good. Then we can see that as the many producers' agreement to participate becomes less and less optional, thus becoming more and more mandatory, and that is because as time goes on, people lose their ability and their skill sets and their opportunities to fill their own needs, and thus they are forced into this forced barter system. So just as the producer's agreement to participate becomes less and less optional, thus becoming more and more mandatory, the controller's agreement to participate likewise becomes less and less optional as it becomes more and more mandatory. And this is all because over time, from not relying on yourself to meet your needs, but rather relying upon others and the forced barter system, you have forgotten and lost the ability on how to fill your own needs. And not just over one generation, but by now over many, many, many generations. The result is that the many who are the producers, their other contribution to the agreement, that of being at the mercy of the controllers, is implicitly ever increased and increased. The more they can't fill their own needs, the more they don't know how, the more they lose the skill set of, and the less opportunity they have to fill their own needs, the more and more they are at the mercy of those who control the end of production for the filling of their own needs. That's just how it works. Take from one, it goes to the other. But let me ask you this. As that level of mercy under which the producers place themselves to the controllers, as that has increased and increased and increased, have the controllers increased their corresponding contribution to ever manage the production of all these goods and services for the good of all? Have they? I mean, let me ask you about this. Now, you see, man's obligation, man's needs are his obligations unto himself. And man negotiated, the producers negotiated from, in this forced barter system agreement in their contribution as a producer and by placing himself at the mercy of the controllers of the end of production. This negotiation is implicit in that agreement. Okay? Which is to say that when man negotiated to be at the mercy of, when the producers negotiated to be at the mercy of the controllers implicitly have to agree that it's for their good and for the bad, which is for the good of all. Otherwise, we're left with slavery. If there is none of this negotiation, these basic concepts and ideas that would form the idea of money and barter and forced barter, which is the truth and is the reality of what we live in. If these core concepts and ideas, if you will, and these core agreements and exchange of obligations, if this is not the case, then we don't have a forced barter system. We have an illusion, and the illusion is covering up truth, and the truth could only be and would be, and perhaps is, slavery. We just don't know it. But maybe it's a barter. Maybe there is this exchange, and if it's not slavery, again, it would have to be an agreement. But if it is slavery and it's not recognized, it is because of the lies that others tell us and the lies that we tell ourselves. But let's not forget about man's biggest need. And closing in on an hour on this segment, so we'll wrap it up quick. Let's not forget about man's biggest need, that which makes him a man, and that which gives him a true life, as opposed to just a life analogous to a biological organism living its days in a test tube. Let's not forget about love. Let's not forget about love. That's what makes man different. Because if you focus on the goods and services and production, then in your forced barter system, the obligations of the producers and the controllers are filled without love. And then without love and truth and honesty and controlling for the good of all men, those who have placed themselves at the controller's mercy become their slaves. What is good? What do we mean by good? Well, you can define good however you want to. I've been talking for 55 minutes. You figure out what good is. But I'm going to say this. How can you have good unless you have love? And how can you give love unless you give truth? Because if you don't have truth, how can you have justice and freedom? If you don't have truth, how, over time, are you going to have any good at all? And this is why, if you have ears, you ought to hear, because it affects all of you.